Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to this week's Picks Against the Spread, brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie, where, of course, you can bet on all of these games as I go through them one by one. And we have a really interesting slate this week, especially in the AFC, because a lot of these games won't just determine who makes the playoffs, but also what seed they end up being. And the biggest of which are probably the first game that we're going to talk about. That's Baltimore going down to LA to take on the Chargers. Again, hugely impactful game because the Chargers are fighting for the first seed right now. They're trying to stay in it with the Chiefs. The Ravens are not just trying to make a wild card, but potentially try to make a run at the AFC North itself. So they both really need this win. And on tape, just kind of looking at matchup-wise, it's a very fascinating kind of clash of two very distinct styles. And I think what this game comes down to is, can the Chargers stop the Baltimore run game? And you look at the numbers for the Baltimore run game the last 5 weeks, like it's been truly staggering. Like, not just the volume that they run it with, but the effectiveness with which they run it with Lamar Jackson. But, and you know, I'll kind of get into it a little bit more in this week's Film Room episode when I release that either tomorrow or the day after, whenever that's coming out. This game's on Saturday, so I'm trying to get it out on Friday morning. But, you know, matchup-wise, San Diego actually matches up well against the Baltimore run game. In terms of the personnel they're able to put on the field, you know, matching athletes for athletes, matching size for size where they need to. You know, the Ravens run game, it's not complicated, but for whatever reason, it's just all the defenses that they've played so far are really lacking in discipline. And like, especially Atlanta, you know, Cincinnati, the Chiefs in like the first, you know, quarter and a half of that game, like just absolutely horrific discipline. And Baltimore is not exactly going to blow you off the ball with their run game. They're just going to kind of confuse you, freeze your eyes, make you go to the wrong gap. Like, they run the ball really more with confusion than just outright power. Not saying that they can't blow you off the ball, but it's not like Seattle, where that's kind of like what Seattle does. They really truly just dominate you at the point of attack, whereas Baltimore just kind of out schemes you and tricks you into making a mistake. There's a lot of bells and whistles with their run game that kind of get things going. And LA, you know, when you got Derwin James coming off the edge, he's a phenomenal edge run defender. Joey Bosa is really good at holding the point of attack, especially on those off-tackle runs that Baltimore likes. You know, their linebackers, while not fantastic, have not been horrible. They definitely have not been as bad as, say, the Bengals linebacking core or, you know, the Falcons linebacking core. So, like, overall, I don't feel like Baltimore is going to be able to have as much success running the ball as maybe we would expect, or at least maybe as other people would expect. And so because of that, if the Ravens can't run the ball, they really don't have an offense, because Lamar Jackson's nowhere near developed enough as a passer to kind of go blow for blow with Phillip Rivers in a shootout type scenario. And so if they can't run the ball and they can't pass the ball, that means their defense is going to be on the field for longer amounts of time. And when they get gassed, like, they play a very aggressive style, that it's very exhausting to play as it is, because there's a whole bunch of movement, a whole bunch of blitzing, a lot of man coverage. Like, it's an exhausting style of defense as it is. And when you're throwing them on the field for more snaps, like really Baltimore relies on the run game to make everything work, not just offensively, but defensively. And so I feel like with LA probably, at least in my estimation, shutting down that run game, I will take that 4.5 point spread all day long. Like, I will gladly take, you know, Chargers minus 4.5, because I feel like they'll win by at least a touchdown. Like, this is a very bad matchup for the Ravens, not just offensively, but defensively. Not to mention the Chargers are also getting healthier. They're getting Melvin Gordon back, potentially getting Keenan Allen back, even though there was kind of a scare with his hip injury. But, you know, they're actually getting healthier as a team as the year goes on, which we're used to seeing them get, you know, banged up as the year goes on. So they're kind of peaking at the right time right now. It's one of the best, if not the best team in the NFL that already has a matchup advantage against Baltimore. Like, if the Ravens won this game, I would be truly stunned. I really would be. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would be absolutely floored if they won this game. So give me the Chargers minus 4.5. I feel like that's a very generous line for the Chargers. I'm taking that 100% of the time. So with that, let's move on to another AFC matchup. Two of Baltimore's division rivals. We got the Bengals going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Browns are favored by 9. I am taking them to cover that 9-point spread. And I know a lot of people might be a little bit scared off by betting on the Browns to cover such a big spread. But I'm doing that for two reasons. One, Baker Mayfield is amazing. I said that in preseason. I like watching his first series of preseason. Like, this dude's going to be a star. He has been a star. He's been one of the best rookie quarterbacks ever. Like, not just of the past 5 or 10 years, but flat out ever. He is having like a historically good season on a per game basis for a rookie quarterback. With not elite talent around him. He's got decent talent, but not elite talent around him. Their defense is obviously playing well. Like, the Browns are just a legitimately dangerous team. Again, not a super threat to like the top dogs of the AFC right now, but like, they are not a bad team at all. Whereas the Bengals are straight up a bad team. Andy Dalton's out, AJ Green's out. The offensive line has been struggling. The defense can't stop anything. I mean, you can throw on them, you can run them, you can do whatever you want to the Bengals defense. I know they beat the Raiders last week, but that's only because the Raiders are one of the few teams that are even worse than the Bengals. Like, there's not many of those. In fact, I'd venture to say there might be like 2 teams worse than the Bengals in the whole league. So, like, these two teams are not remotely in the same level whatsoever. The Browns they should win by more than 9 points. I would be kind of surprised if they didn't, because the Browns are a very, very quickly ascending franchise, not just this season, but for many seasons to come, while the Bengals are kind of hitting a low point of low points, which is saying something for the Bengals. Like, they've kind of been up and down the last, 8 or 9 years, ever since they drafted Dalton and Green. This is the lowest I've seen this franchise in the Andy Dalton era, and there's been some low points, believe me. So really, this is a battle between a team that is sharply ascending against a team that is sharply descending. And give me Cleveland -9 all day long. I love that line for this bet. And also keep an eye out for them in 2019. Like, this is a team to watch this offseason, because like, they legitimately might only be 2 or 3 moves away from being a major player in this conference. And that's saying something, because there are some truly major players in this conference that are going to be around for a while. I'm looking at you, Kansas City. So again, I'm very bullish, or bearish, whichever one's positive. I can't remember. I'm very positive on Cleveland's future prospects and Cleveland's prospects this week. So that brings us to our last game of the week, which is, again, another very interesting game to me, mainly because the line is not what I expected it to be when I checked this game early today. That's the 10-4 Texans going up to the 7-7 Eagles. And the Eagles are actually favored by 2.5. And a lot of that probably has to do with them just beating the Rams in LA. But that's kind of a crazy line to me. Like, I get it. People are saying, a lot of Houston's wins are fluky and they had a soft schedule. Look who they've beaten. Look who's beaten them. Yada, yada, yada. Like, still, to have a 10-4 team that hasn't really been dealing with any major injuries as of late, to be an underdog to a 7-7 team that's not even slated to make the playoffs right now, like, that's kind of crazy to me. In terms of the actual matchups on the field and why I would be betting on Houston, beyond just the fact that I think they're a better team, because, you could say, the Rams are a better team than Houston and Eagles just beat them, so by the transitive property, blah, 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 blah. Like, I get that. But matchup-wise, like, the Eagles are a better matchup against the Rams than they are against Houston. Houston is a better matchup against the Eagles than they are against the Rams. That's how football works. Like, anybody can beat anybody because matchups are important. And when I look at how the Eagles beat the Rams, the Rams are very soft against the run. They allowed, I want to say, like 110, 115 yards rushing in that game. Not an amazing number, but the Eagles' offense really depends on the run game to make the passing game work. And they were able to run the ball effectively enough to then open up the play-action passing game. You started seeing those bombs to Alshon Jeffrey down the field. Nick Foles is obviously more comfortable in play-action. He's more comfortable, like, when they get the RPO game working, all that kind of stuff. Like, so even though they didn't put up crazy numbers on the ground against LA, like, it was enough to make their offense function, because at the end of the day, they are a run-first team. They have to be, with Nick Foles at quarterback. And so when I look at how they match up against LA versus Houston, because LA kind of struggles to stop the run game inside, whereas Houston does not, I do feel like Houston is a better matchup. Like, in the past, I want to say 3 weeks, Houston's allowed less than 3 yards a carry and less than 60 yards rushing a game. Like, their run defense is absolutely bonkers. So if the Eagles cannot establish the run, which then kind of hampers their ability to establish the play-action pass, what then do they have? Are we thinking that Nick Foles is going to be getting into a crazy ass shootout with Deshaun Watson without a run game? I don't know if they can do that. Like, Nick Foles isn't bad, but I don't know if he can function without a functioning run game. Like, that's not really the kind of quarterback that he is. So again, this league is all about matchups. It's not just about records, and the Eagles did match up well with the Rams. I don't feel like they match up well with Houston. So give me the Texans at plus 2.5, and I almost can't even believe that I'm saying the Texans at plus 2.5 in this game, because again, that line is insane to me, but whatever. It just makes it easier for me to win if they're going to give me that kind of line. I'll take it. But yeah, anyway, just to recap, I'm taking the Chargers at minus 4.5. I'm taking Cleveland at minus 9, and I'm taking Houston at plus 2.5. Very, very, very interesting lines, very interesting games. I'm sure the entire playoff picture for both conferences is going to look massively different by the end of this Sunday. But until then, if you guys are interested in betting on any of these games as you watch them on Saturday and Sunday this week, just like I will be because I got nowhere else to be, head on over to the link in the description below, enter promo code Brett on MyBookie, and you can get up to a 50% deposit bonus on any deposit up to $1,000. And MyBookie is the site that I use to bet on all these games every single weekend. I love it a lot. Really, really easy to use interface. You can bet on basically anything you can think of. And with that deposit bonus, you essentially get 50% or an extra 50% of your deposit that you can then use as like free betting credits on the site. And when you win bets with those, you can get real money back. So essentially, they're giving you like a free bonus currency, which then can translate into actual money when you use it and win with it and all that kind of stuff. So it incentivizes just kind of playing for free, having fun with it, learning the site, learning how everything works. It's a really, really great offer. So again, if you want to take part in that, head down to the link in the description below, enter promo code Brett on MyBookie on your deposit, and collect your free bonus. So yeah, I'll be back again more this week with another full film room episode breaking down that Chargers and Ravens game. Again, very intriguing matchup, so hopefully you guys like that one. And yeah, I'll be back either tomorrow or potentially early Saturday at the latest. I know the game was on Saturday, so I'm really crunching to get it out, but we'll see how fast I can go. So until then, I'll see you guys later.